encouraging an environment of hate and divisiveness.
Trump.
Thank you so much. This committee could be engaged in actual oversight of fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement. So let's talk about waste. Like Trump's plan to spend almost $100 million for his little birthday parade, or how he spent 25% of his first 100 days golfing, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. In fact, it's a little bit over 30 million at our last estimation. In fact, President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing. Yet the Republicans have been silent. So they must think spending taxpayer dollars on the president's golfing trips is more important than providing health care to their constituents. And when I talk about constituents, we're going to talk about the ones on this committee.
Of all of the Democrats who live rent-free in Donald Trump's head, I think at this current moment, Jasmine Crockett has the biggest piece of real estate. Donald Trump cannot stop attacking her, saying that she's low IQ or that she's ineffective in Congress. Two things that are completely the opposite of what Donald Trump is saying and are actually the truth about him. But Jasmine Crockett is reveling in that and just taking it to Donald Trump even more, which is exactly what we saw her do before Congress when she called out Trump over a golf scandal that is exploding right now in the wake of the proposed budget from the Republican caucus in the House. We are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into the golf scandal that Jasmine Crockett called out, we need the context with what the GOP is trying to cut out in this new budget.
In Texas, she serves as the vice-ranking member of the Oversight Committee and also serves on the DOGE subcommittee, and she joins me now. I want to start with the question to you from your perch, particularly the DOGE subcommittee. If my read on this, which is they've kind of like this weird division of labor where Elon Musk just cuts a bunch of stuff and they get to be like, I don't know, take it up with him, because then they don't have to vote for anything and they get a lot of cuts they want. And now that's coming to an end.
Yeah, listen, it's interesting because the DOGE subcommittee is all for cosplay, right? Like, we had a hearing today and it was all about trans people fencing. And they brought in someone, they actually subpoenaed a man and was like, have you $0 federal dollars, but we want to talk about this. And I'm like, okay, so this is efficient of us to do this, right? But they did not want to have a conversation around the cuts that you just were having a conversation about, right? One of the things that I decided to do, they may not have wanted to talk about it, but I was going to highlight it. And what I did is I went through each and every one of the members on the DOGE subcommittee. I went through their districts and talked about how many children specifically were at risk for losing their Medicaid. And guess whose district was at the top of the list? The chairwoman, with 111,000 children that stand the risk of Medicaid. Yet we're having a conversation, or we are sitting out and giving red meat to Fox News instead of talking about the real issues.
Am I right that the train is running late right now in terms of the timing of all this? I mean, I was trying to go back and look at where things were, but the Ron Johnson quote was interesting. Again, a lot of this has been behind the closed doors. Trump does so much by like fiat and decree, even though he constitutionally can't, that this has been obscured. In a different administration, there'd be more eyeballs on this, but it does seem like they're running late. Is that your sense?
Yeah, I mean, they're running late and they're running scared. Listen, you either are going to do what you need to do as it relates to the people that elected you, or you are going to go ahead and make sure that you bend the knee to your king. Now, they don't know which one to do. I don't even know why it's a debate. But that's where we are. Like, this week, we were actually supposed to have markups in we were supposed to have a markup in energy and commerce. That is where the Medicaid cuts are supposed to come in, to the tune of $880 billion. They also were supposed to have, as it relates to agriculture and SNAP benefits, cutting $220 billion from SNAP when people only get $6 a day to eat in SNAP benefits for those who receive it. And the last time I checked, you probably can't get 12 eggs for that amount of money. And so instead of doing it, literally there was a leak in a story that came out said no, we want to make sure we can flood the zone. So whenever we do this, we're going to make sure that these committees are going to be at the same time. Like the fact that you're hiding from the fact that you literally just are like, let me just throw everything at you so that we can overwhelm you instead of actually doing your job. I cannot wait until voters have an opportunity to say, you took food out of my mouth, you took a roof from over my head, you're responsible for making sure that I do not have, I'm going to make sure you don't have a job.
The supposedly pro-life party is making sure that mothers, fathers, and children go hungry, that they are starving, that they are losing their health care, that they are losing their homes. Also, we can give billionaires a bigger tax cut while Donald Trump carries out the stupidest trade war in history that imposes the largest tax hike on the working class we have ever seen. And what are CEOs doing of the biggest corporations? Well, they're taking Donald Trump to candlelight dinners in Mar-a-Lago to bribe him into giving them exemptions. The rich have never been getting richer than under Donald Trump. That is what this administration is. And it applies to Donald Trump as well. Of course, who is raking in the cash from the crypto scheme as he lounges on the golf course in the waste, fraud, and abuse-cutting administration. Sure, yeah, that doesn't really work out with Donald Trump's golf schedule, as Jasmine Crockett pointed out right here.
Encouraging an environment of hate and divisiveness.
Trump.
Thank you so much. This committee could be engaged in actual oversight of fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement. So let's talk about waste. Like Trump's plan to spend almost $100 million for his little birthday parade. Or how he spent 25% of his first 100 days golfing, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. In fact, it's a little bit over 30 million at our last estimation. In fact, President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing. Yet the Republicans have been silent. So they must think spending taxpayer dollars on the president's golfing trips is more important than providing health care to their constituents. And when I talk about constituents, we're going to talk about the ones on this committee. So if we look at Texas 26, 39,000 children look to potentially lose their Medicaid with the cuts that they are about to vote on for reconciliation. 88,000 in Georgia 3, 68,000 in Missouri 7, 79,000 in Tennessee 2, 86,000 in South Carolina 4, 50,000 in Texas 04, 85,000 in Texas 27, and in Georgia 14, 111,000. And if you add that up just on this committee, we have 606,000 kids that are relying on us to do right by them. And instead, we playing these crazy games because we worried about 10 trans folk that are in sports right now in college. I wasn't elected to be engaged in these fights. I was elected to make sure that those kids, the kids that they are about to neglect with these terrible votes that they're about to take, I was elected to protect them and to make sure that they could grow up and have all the opportunities. But let's keep on track. Now, when we look at how much they are spending on, let's look at fraud. We could investigate whether the White House and the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock the day before Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs. But I guess we'll never know. So finally, let's talk about abuse. Like how the Republicans have let Elon steal data of Americans and his competitors to make himself even richer. Look, don't let these hearings distract you from their destruction. This is rage baiting instead of conducting oversight over the issues that Americans actually care about. And with that, I will yield.
$1 billion. That's with a B, $1 billion. Donald Trump is going to spend on his golf trips during his presidency. $1 billion we are paying for Donald Trump to golf. And it's not just that we are paying $1 billion for his golf trips, but do you know where he takes all his golf trips to his own golf courses? We're putting $1 billion in his pocket, essentially. At the same time, he's raking in other billions of dollars by being paid off by corporations, governments, anyone who wants to influence him through his crypto coin. Donald Trump is not only using the levers of power of the presidency to elevate the price of his meme coin, but Donald Trump's stable coin, World Liberty Financial, which we are now seeing governments and corporations buy millions, if not billions of dollars of that coin that Donald Trump owns. He gets a transaction fee from because he controls the platform. So it is a direct way to send money to Donald Trump to influence him. And that is exactly what we're seeing out of businesses, like I said, individuals and governments like the Saudis who are spending $2 billion doing a deal with the coin. All that money is going to Donald Trump. This is the biggest scandal in history. Donald Trump is getting richer. Everyone else is getting screwed over. And that is exactly what we heard from Governor Tim Walz in a takedown of Trump right here.
You know, one of the reasons I love talking to people like you and other governors is that you described your job as kind of firewall, and I think others have described it like that as well. A lot of people are wondering kind of what can be done to stop this? I mean, what does that firewall look like as you prepare for other things the Trump administration could be doing?
Yeah, I think using the existing laws to the best we can, where state laws stand up for people, whether it's around reproductive freedoms, protecting, our children from some of these policies. But I too, Jen, and I know I listened to you talking to my friend Pete Buttigieg, makes a great point of this. We have to provide an alternative. All of what you're talking about here, I think what haunts me is that they still voted for this guy, and they didn't believe we were standing with the working class. And I had a great example today, something, as a teacher and as governor, I'm very proud of. Our state announced our graduation rates are the highest they've ever been in our state history. That's no coincidence. We provided free breakfast and free lunch. We provided the nation's largest child tax credit. We invested more money in education and our teachers than any time in our history, and the payoff we got for that was higher achievement, entering in with the skills necessary to thrive. That's the society we want to see. That's lifting up the American people. Those are policies that we should be very proud of, rather than Donald Trump advocating and trying to scare people, say people are grifting off all of these programs that he's destroying. They are not doing any such thing. They're feeding their children. Their kids are going to school with full bellies, and lo and behold, they're learning and graduating. So I think what governors are doing is providing the alternative reality that Donald Trump's in. And I think that's the best way for the middle class to see real results, because he told you he would end the war in Ukraine, he would bring price, and now telling people, when did government get to tell you how many dolls your child has? I mean, this was my whole point about this, government just big enough to, and apparently now in your toy chest. That is, it's insane. It's a command economy with him dictating. There's no free market principles. My farmers have worked free market around the world, and we have thrived at that. We feed the world, we clothe the world, we power the world. Donald Trump is now deciding that he gets to do all. The thing is to enrich the industries he chooses. He's picking the winners and losers, and in this case, the billionaires are winning, the rest of us are losing.
I mean, you mentioned, what I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around, he seems bizarrely flippant, maybe, about the impact of tariffs on families. I mean, there are many impacts. I mean, he gets mad when he was asked about the price of strollers going up. You mentioned he makes creepy comments about how many dolls girls need. What is it about? It seems just so disconnected, like it must be about something more than that.
I don't know. This is from my amateur psychologist. I think when he was back in the 80s or something at Wharton in his 6 months there or whatever, and he misreads this. It's a ludicrous philosophy. No one agrees with him. Democrats put tariffs on. Yes, they're a tool. They're a scalpel. You can use them when you have unfair practices. But he's talking about the thing that drives me insane. Canada and Mexico, he's the guy who negotiated the deal. And then he turns around and says, well, we don't care much about Canada. I was glad to see the Prime Minister coming in from Canada saying, are you out of your mind? We're your biggest trading partner. They are our biggest trading partner in Minnesota. They're who we care about. He has no concept. This goes back to that idea. So many Americans thought, we need to hire a businessman to run government like business. That are wrong. No, we don't need to run government like a business because we're not in the profit making. We're in the proving lives and looking towards the future. And this guy has a absolute failure. And I think the opening for Democrats is to work with the business community. I am Fortune 500 companies that are put at risk by this. And I'll just say this, I'm calling these folks out. They need to stand up. He threatens them. He threatens, universities. Thank goodness Harvard's standing up to them. But that's how he gets things done. He doesn't get it done through competency. He doesn't get it done through results. He gets it done through fear, intimidation. And I'm with you. I wish he could have been weirdly obsessed with like pickleball or something rather than tariffs. That's where he could spend his time. But it's on this tariff thing that doesn't.
We need to be hammering the message of corruption, the message of incompetence, the message of criminality in every way, shape, and form we possibly can every single day. We're certainly going to be doing so on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.